All right, good morning, students. Today's lesson is about models that represent fractions being multiplied. So there are three basic types of models that you're going to see in the task cards. And so we're going to kind of walk through how to figure out what equation goes with each of them here. So first we have a circles model. Some of them are rectangles or squares, but you'll be able to flip between the three very easily. So we're looking here at these three circles and we're trying to figure out what multiplication problem this could be. So we know we're going to end up, whoops, I need to be on my brushes. We're going to have a multiplication symbol in there somehow, some way, right? So let's look at one of the circles because each circle is a whole, and let's figure out what part is shaded. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts on each one. So I know we've got something 6. Now, how many of them are shaded? Well, 5 of them are shaded. So we've got 5/6 here. How many times do we have 5/6? Well, we have 5/6 3 times. Now, here's something cool. You guys already know how to multiply fractions times a whole. You just don't know it. We have already been making equivalent fractions. So we have already been multiplying with fractions, and it wasn't even a thing. Like, we didn't even have to talk about it. It was just a step in what we were already doing. So here's the cool thing about when you multiply a fraction by a whole. You're going to take that whole and you're going to turn it into a fraction. And the only way we can have it keep the same value is if we give the denominator a value of 1. So when we're doing 5/6 times 3, that's the same thing as doing 5/6 times 3 over 1, and we're going to end up with 15/6. And it's perfectly okay that that is an improper fraction. Remember, improper fractions are fine as long as they're not inside of a mixed number. All right, let's look at this next one. It's a little trickier because it's a number line, but it's really the same steps that we need to go through. We need to figure out what our denominator is. And our denominator is going to be how many pieces make up one whole. So if I look between the 0 and the 1, so I'm looking between here and here, how many little sections are there? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I know in this case, my denominator is going to be a 5. This first jump tells me how many of the fifths that I have, and it jumped from 0 to the third one. So I know this is 3/5. Now it is 3/5 4 times. So we've got 3/5 times 4 over 1, because we're going to take that whole number and turn it into a fraction. And the only way to keep the value the same is to make the denominator be a 1. We're going to multiply across, and we've got 12/5. All right, now, this next one is a little bit out of the box. It doesn't seem like it, but if I say 3/5 of our class, of 20 students, that's actually multiplying fractions. That's like saying 3/5 times 20. And if we wanted to know what 3/5 of our meerkat class anyway would be, it would be 60 over 5. And if I simplify that, I get 12. So 3/5 of 20 is 12. I'm going to cover that up. That's not something that we really need to be there. But when we see the word of, and we're talking about fractions, it's going to be multiplication every time. And this is called fraction of a set. It's a little different than just like 3/5 times 5 or 5/6 times 3 or 3/5 times 4. All right, let me turn that white and get my rectangle tool, turn on my fill, and just be able to cover it up all at one time. Okay, now we're back to kind of a clean slate for this third one. So what we have to ask ourselves here, we know we're going to have the word of. So I'm going to put, whoops. Oh, writing in white on white. That's a good trick, Miss Moore. That's a really good trick, and we're not on brushes. Okay. So out of, well, how many smiley faces are here total? Well, it looks like 15. So we've got some fraction of 15. So now we need to look at the part that's inside of a box and figure out what that is. So this smiley face array, it has 3 rows and 5 columns. So it has 3 rows, top row, middle row, bottom row. But then it also has 5 columns, 1, 2 that are in the box and 3 that are not. So what we've got here, we've got 2 of the columns circled in the circle. So we've got 2 of them out of 5 of them. So this model represents 2/5 of 15. And 2/5 of 15 is really like doing 2/5 times 15 over 1. Remember to put it over 1. And then we end up with 30/5. And when we simplify, 30 divided by 5 is 6. And that's exactly how many smiley faces were circled in the first place. So that's how you go about tackling these models. Your job is to take the list of models, or look at the cards that have the models on them, look at your list of equations and match them up, but you also need to solve them. So since we're at home, I want you to solve at least 8 of them. I'm not going to be picky about which 8, but I want you to have 4 where the equation has, an X in it, and 4 where the equation has the word of in it. So we're getting a good mix of both kinds, and I can make sure that you understand both. So what you'll need to do since you're at home is email me and say like, hey, model A was whatever equation, and here's how I solved it. So just find a way to send me an email. It could be, you could put a picture in an email if you're working on paper, or however you can find to do that. All right, good luck.